Morning, everyone. We've reached our midterm halfway mark in our last practicum, or for the 448 students, the first practicum. I hope everybody's doing well, and I wish for the rest of the term to be successful. So my practicum placement is at my aunt's place, which is a homeless shelter for women and families, and it's under the umbrella of the YWCA. My first 3 weeks of practicum were spent at the main building on McIntyre Street. And that's when I did a variety of training. I learned, let me see here. Oh, I did, this will go underneath my successes as well, but I'll just talk briefly about it. Orientation, all the different computer programs that are specific to the agency, as well as the different forms that have to be filled out. But their mandate, the YWCA mandate, is to support women and to empower women. And this is a program that I strongly believe in, and I've seen firsthand. I've had the honor to witness not only how the staff works with these vulnerable women, but also how these women have become empowered through the different programs offered. I worked with my supervisor, my field supervisor. Her name is April Marcus. She has 21 years of experience with the Y. She did work at MAP. She was the residence coordinator there, and then she came to the Y for a couple of years, and then she's back at my aunt's place, which is on Lawrence Street. It's a big house. They have space for 22 people, 22 women, and they have there's 3 family rooms, because homelessness is not just an adult thing. It also affects children, and it's unfortunate, but it happens for a variety of reasons. And what I'm seeing so far, one of the main reasons for homelessness in Regina right now is the change to the SIS program, and also the availability of CERB in conjunction with SIS and SAP through the ministry, and how easy it was to get that CERB, and how you're broke for so long, and then all of a sudden you get a large amount of money, and you don't know, like, you just spend. You don't think to save rent for next month, or to catch up on your rent, or anything. There's no financial responsibility there. So now majority of these women, well, not a majority, there's a few that are homeless because of the CERB program, but also too, it's addictions. Addictions is I'm seeing addictions is affecting their mental health, and it's affecting housing stability for these ladies. So that's part of my practicum experiences so far, is learning how these different agencies deal with and their approaches to homelessness. So my practicum experiences so far have been very positive, in that it's all part of experiential learning. So you see there's some negative interactions, and you see the positive interactions, and you have to learn from the negative ones, where maybe a resident is upset with the residence coordinator because they've been evicted. Well, they don't just throw you out in your ass in 2 seconds. There's a process that goes with that, and there's a lot of encouraging steps taken to try and keep these women housed. But for whatever reason, it's not working for them. So they can't stay in the program anymore. And unfortunately, as soon as a bed becomes available, there's a list, and it gets filled immediately. But I also have had the pleasure of working with or learning with Jerry Lynn, and she's an asset to whatever she's going to go into. She's going to be an asset. She's helped me out a lot as well, and I appreciate all the help that she's given me. So now I'm going to talk about the challenges of that I faced so far, and the biggest one is witnessing systemic racism. In particular, systemic racism as it applies to one of the Regina Police Service programs. It's called COAST. It's the Community Outreach and Support Program. And the Senior Director, Cora Sellers at the YWCA, has coordinated with some other agency reps to figure out a way and start an initiative within the agency to hold COAST to task. COAST is, in my opinion, and I think it's an opinion shared with some other directors and other staff, that they are further marginalizing a group of women who are so marginalized already. I've witnessed the racism with a First Nations young woman who was in the midst of drug psychosis. COAST was called. This is what they do, their community outreach. So COAST was called to come to the Y to see what assistance they could provide to this young woman, this young First Nations woman. And over the phone, the residence coordinator was told, it's meth, there's nothing they can do about it. So that was at the YWCA. And just recently, a few days ago, at my aunt's place, COAST picked up a woman, she's a white woman, took her to Tim's, got her coffee, warmed her up, took her to her bank to get 3 months worth of bank statements, and then brought her right in the building. They didn't tell her it was an issue of meth. That meth was involved, they're not going to deal with it. That seems to be their answer for everything, every time that they're called for a First Nation woman. It's meth. Nothing they can do about it. Take her to the hospital. Well, they're supposed to do that. COAST is supposed to come and take this woman to the hospital. But anyways, that's a prime example of systemic racism. Another challenge is seeing addictions and how it affects every aspect of these women's lives, from children being in care to disrupted kinship circles to health problems to mental health issues. The YWCA has a mandate of the harm reduction approach, and it's a good positive approach, but there are some challenges that come with that. And unfortunately, there are some women who they can't break that cycle of addiction, no matter what supports are there for them, and there's a lot. So that's an area of my learning that I need to gather more information on. And then also the COVID-19 impacts. Recently, my aunt's place was closed down for 2 weeks because there was a positive case. All the residents, and at this time there were 2 families in the shelter. They all had to go to the COVID hotel. Staff had to self-isolate for 14 days. Myself, I had to stay home for 2 days, and then I had to wait for a negative test result. And then during this time, there were almost daily Zoom meetings with updates because it's shifting what the Saskatchewan Health Authority says in regards to a shelter. It's communal living. Like at my aunt's place, it's 2 people to a room. So of course, you're going to be in close contact. But they've worked that through, and there's now positions called COVID support, and these are employees who have taken training to ensure that community tracking is in place and food service is being handled properly, and the high traffic areas are sanitized. I think it's every 30 minutes. But those are just some of the challenges, and now I'm going to talk about successes. So far, I've received, I think, 4 different types of training. There's the orientation, which was really good. That was really good training. It went through everything. I learned how to use the different computer programs, and the reasoning behind these programs is for data collection. The shelters need to know how many women are coming through their doors, how many turnaways. Unfortunately, I know one day there was 13 calls before noon, and all of these women had to be turned away because there was no room. And that's to make sure that it's for funding purposes. The YWCA gets core funding from the government, as well as private and corporate donors. And then my aunt's place funding is from the ministry. And some of it comes from Justice. That would be for the domestic violence shelter, the Isabel Johnson shelter. But and then I've participated in 3 staff meetings so far. And then at my aunt's place every day, there's a shift change in the morning, and there's a shift change in the evening and the late afternoon. And that's just to bring the next shift coming up, bring them up to speed as to what happened in the previous shift. And that's just to make sure that these ladies, that their care is continues on. There has to be consistency. And I've also been able to start building a rapport with residents and staff. I think that's really important, to treat these women with respect and kindness, and to be, like a friendly face. We're not here to judge. And so it's when you're doing, there's a process during the intake that there's a particular form that has to be filled out, and it's called a VI SPDAT, and you go through with your resident, and there's a score, and based on that score, they determine if this resident needs an outreach worker or rapid rehousing or just like housing supports. And sometimes some of these ladies that's the opportunity you have to get to know them, and sometimes they're willing to talk to you about all of the stuff they've been through that leads, why they're there, why they're sitting there talking to a virtual stranger about why they're addicted, or why they lost their home, or why their kids are in care. So it's very important to be very empathetic toward them and to be respectful, because that would be a very hard place. If I was on the other side, I would want somebody who's non-judgmental and who has is showing me some kindness. I've also had the opportunity to do 3 intakes so far, and it's pretty interesting. So during orientation, I'm going to wrap it up here, but I wanted everybody to keep in mind that language is powerful, and the way we phrase things and the words we say have an impact on others. And I think we need to take a look at how we phrase questions, and just by shifting one word in a question, we can change attitudes and responses. And always, to carry ourselves in a way where we are representing First Nations University of Canada, and especially the Indigenous Social Work Program, in a positive manner. And I wish all my classmates all the best. Thank you.